Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Tonight, I've gathered 5 terrifying camping stories, true accounts from people who thought they were escaping into nature, only to find something else was already out there, waiting. So grab your blanket, dim the lights, and let the darkness take over. I used to love camping. The sound of the wind through the trees, the smell of pine needles, the crackle of the fire, it was my escape. But after what happened 3 summers ago, I haven't set foot in the woods again. It was me, my girlfriend Anna, and 2 of our close friends, Nate and Lisa. We were all in our late 20s and had decided on a weekend getaway at a secluded campground in northern Idaho. Not a paid site, just a remote patch of forest we found on a backpacking forum. No cell signal, no facilities, no other campers. Just us, miles away from civilization. We set up 2 tents in a small clearing surrounded by tall pine trees. The first night was exactly what we hoped for, laughing by the fire, roasting marshmallows, telling old college stories. Sometime around 1 a.m., we all turned in. The fire burned low, and everything was quiet. Peaceful. But I woke up maybe an hour later. I didn't know why at first. There wasn't a sound, not even wind. Just a feeling, like something was watching me. I lay still in my sleeping bag, trying to convince myself it was just a dream. Then I heard it. A crunch. Just one. From the tree line, maybe 30 feet away. At first, I thought it was a deer. I'd been camping enough times to know what wildlife sounded like. But then there was another crunch. Closer. And then, silence again. I sat up quietly and peeked out through the tiny mesh window of the tent. It was pitch black, but the dying glow from the fire gave just enough light to see the shape of the trees. That's when I saw it. A silhouette, tall, thin, just standing among the trees. I couldn't make out any details, but it wasn't moving. It was just there. I whispered Anna's name, but she was fast asleep. I didn't want to wake the others, not yet. Maybe it was a tree stump or a shadow. I blinked hard, trying to shake the image from my head. But then it moved. Slowly. Not forward, but to the side, like it was pacing around the clearing, never stepping into the light. My heart was pounding so loud, I was sure it would wake Anna. I sat frozen for what felt like 10 minutes. The figure would vanish behind trees, then reappear, always just at the edge. Watching. Eventually, I must have passed out. I don't remember falling asleep, just waking up to sunlight filtering through the tent. I rushed out, expecting to see tracks or something. But there was nothing. No prints. No broken branches. Nothing. That day, I didn't say anything. I figured my tired brain played tricks on me. But that night, it came back. And this time, Nate saw it too. He woke us all up around 3 a.m., panicked and shaking, swearing he saw someone circling the camp. We grabbed our flashlights and looked around, yelling into the trees like idiots. Again, nothing. We left the next morning. No one said it, but we all felt it. Something wasn't right out there. A few weeks later, Nate sent me a screenshot from a Reddit thread. Other hikers, backpackers, even hunters, were sharing stories from that same area. Always the same thing, a figure in the woods that never steps into the light. No face, no voice, just watching. People call it the looker. I haven't gone camping since. And every now and then, I still dream about that silhouette standing just beyond the firelight, waiting. This happened in 2018, when I was 22, camping with my cousin Jordan and his girlfriend Sarah. We picked a spot at Clearview Lake, a small, glassy body of water nestled deep in the Oregon mountains. The kind of place that doesn't show up on tourist maps, just something you hear about from locals if you ask the right kind of questions. We got there late Friday afternoon, set up camp near the shoreline, and cooked a simple dinner over the fire. The lake was still, reflecting the trees like a mirror. There was no one else around, no other tents, no boats, nothing. That night was calm. Quiet. The only sounds were the soft lapping of the water and the occasional rustle from the forest. Then around 2:30 a.m., I woke up to Sarah shaking me awake. "Listen," she whispered, eyes wide. "Do you hear that?" At first, I didn't. But then I heard it too. A scream. Far off, faint, but sharp enough to slice through the stillness. A woman's scream. We sat up, listening. The scream came again, louder this time, echoing across the lake. Jordan unzipped the tent and poked his head out. "What the hell is that?" The scream came a third time. But this one wasn't human anymore. It started like a scream, but then twisted, like someone was imitating a woman screaming, but didn't quite know how. It ended in this strange, garbled sound, almost like laughter, but not quite. We stepped out into the cold night air. The lake was still. Absolutely still. Not a ripple. Sarah clung to Jordan's arm while I scanned the opposite shoreline with my flashlight. Nothing. Just trees and shadows. "Maybe someone needs help," Jordan said. But even he didn't sound convinced. We argued quietly for a few minutes. I wanted to stay put. Jordan wanted to check it out. Sarah was frozen in fear. Eventually, we all agreed to wait. If it was real, we'd hear it again. But the scream never came back. We stayed up until dawn, watching the water. The next day, we found something strange. While hiking a trail that looped around the lake, we stumbled across an old, half-burned campsite on the far side. Cold ashes, scattered cans, an empty backpack, and a rusted hatchet embedded in a tree. No tent, no people. It looked like whoever was there had left in a hurry. That night, we didn't sleep much. The wind picked up, and every gust sounded like whispers through the trees. Every snap of a twig made our hearts jump. Then, just after 3 a.m., we heard something splash. Not like a fish or bird. This was big. Like someone walking in from the lake. We didn't go outside. We just sat there, huddled together in the tent, holding our breath. The footsteps, wet, slow, approached our side of the lake and stopped. There was a pause. Then that same scream, louder than before, just outside our tent. Sarah let out a choked sob. Jordan grabbed his pocket knife, though we all knew it wouldn't do much. We waited for what felt like an hour, but heard nothing more. No footsteps. No scream. Just silence. When the sun finally rose, we packed everything and left. We tried telling a ranger about what we'd heard and found. He listened quietly, then said, "You shouldn't camp on that side of the lake. People go missing out there." He didn't elaborate, just looked out over the water and said, "The lake keeps secrets." I never went back, and I never will. I've always believed that nature has a rhythm. You can feel it if you sit still long enough. Wind through the leaves, the hum of insects, the calls of nocturnal animals. But sometimes, that rhythm breaks. And when it does, you know something is wrong. I learned that the hard way. It was a solo trip. August 2021. I'd just gone through a bad breakup and needed to clear my head. So I drove out to Allegheny National Forest in Pennsylvania. I'd been there before, but this time I wanted to camp deeper, off trail, where there's no one for miles. I hiked in a few hours, set up my one-person tent near a stream, and spent the evening journaling and cooking over my little camp stove. Peaceful. Honestly, it was exactly what I needed. I went to bed around 11, exhausted from the hike. The forest was alive with night sounds, crickets, owls, the distant gurgle of the stream. I remember thinking, this is healing. But sometime past midnight, I woke up with this strange pressure on my chest. Not physical, more like a weight of presence. The forest had gone dead silent. No insects. No birds. Nothing. I opened my eyes. The inside of my tent was pitch black. I couldn't even see the outline of the zipper. I reached for my flashlight, but froze. There was a sound. Inside the tent. It was faint at first. A soft, slow dragging sound against the nylon floor. Like something was crawling. And then, breathing. Shallow. Wet. I held my breath. At first, I thought maybe an animal had torn through the side, maybe a raccoon or even a snake. But the sound was all wrong. It moved slowly, deliberately. Like it didn't care if I noticed. Like it wanted me to. My flashlight was inches from my hand, but I didn't dare move. Then I felt it. Something brushed against my foot. It wasn't cold or slimy. It was warm. Human warm. And it had fingers. I snapped. I grabbed the flashlight, flicked it on, and in that brief second, I saw something pulling itself toward me at the foot of the tent. Pale skin. Hair matted to a face that didn't look right, eyes too big, mouth too wide. Then it was gone. The light flickered and died. Batteries dead. I didn't wait. I tore through the zipper and rolled out of the tent, barefoot, crashing through the underbrush. I didn't stop running until I was back on the trail, lungs burning, legs cut up from thorns. I hiked in the dark for almost 2 hours until I found a ranger station near the main road. They let me sleep in the utility shed. When I went back with one of the rangers the next day, the tent was still there, untouched. But inside, the floor was covered in long, shallow scratches, as if someone, or something, had clawed its way across the nylon. And there was something else. In the center of the tent was a small pile of rocks, arranged in a perfect circle, each one stacked carefully, intentionally, like a nest, or a warning. I still camp, but never alone, and never without a backup light. Because now I know, sometimes, the forest watches back, and sometimes, it doesn't want to watch from outside the tent. I've worked as a wilderness guide in Utah for most of my adult life. Week-long hiking trips, remote camping tours, solo survival challenges, you name it. I thought I'd seen everything the woods could throw at a person. But what happened to me and 2 clients in the summer of 2016 still gives me nightmares. And I've never told this story publicly, until now. It was a private booking, 2 friends from Denver, Alec and Marcus, both in their mid-30s, wanting to spend 4 nights hiking through Capitol Reef National Park. They said they wanted isolation, quiet, and something real. I gave them exactly that, a route that cut deep through slot canyons and up into higher pine forest elevation where most tourists never tread. We were 3 days in, deep into the backcountry, when we found it. An old campsite. Not a designated one. This was just a clearing off the main trail, half hidden behind a rock outcrop and tangled with pine. You wouldn't notice it unless you were standing right on top of it. At first, we were excited. It looked like a dream spot, flat, shaded, a nice breeze coming off the ridge. But the closer we looked, the more wrong it felt. There was gear. Lots of it. A weathered canvas tent still standing, half-zipped. A cooler with rotted food inside. 2 camp chairs folded neatly by a fire pit full of ashes. But no people. I checked for any recent activity. No footprints, no tire marks, no sign of an emergency. There were even clothes hung up on a line between 2 trees, flapping in the breeze like someone had just walked away from the mid-morning and never came back. Alec, who was the more curious of the 2, unzipped the tent. Inside were 2 sleeping bags, some personal belongings, a watch, a worn paperback, a small journal, and a Polaroid camera sitting on a pillow like it had been placed there gently. I remember thinking, who leaves this much gear behind willingly? We debated whether to set up nearby or keep moving. It was getting late, and hiking after dark in this terrain wasn't safe. Against my better judgment, I agreed to stay, just for 1 night. We set up our tents a good 50 feet from the abandoned site. None of us really talked much that evening. That night, everything felt off. The air was too still. There were no night sounds, no owls, no crickets. Just this heavy silence, like the forest was holding its breath. Around 1:15 a.m., I woke up. No noise had stirred me, just a sudden awareness, like I'd been pulled out of sleep. I sat up and immediately noticed something. There was a light, dim and flickering, coming from the abandoned tent. At first I thought maybe one of the guys had gone in there with a lantern. But both Alec and Marcus were asleep in their tents. I could hear Alec snoring. I unzipped my tent as quietly as I could and stepped out into the cold. The light was still flickering inside the canvas tent. But the campsite itself was still empty. No movement. No shadows. Then the zipper. The sound cut through the night like a razor. I froze as the front of the old tent slowly opened from the inside. A figure stepped out. Not walked. Not crawled. Stepped. It was a woman. Or at least, that's what I think it used to be. She was tall. Her clothes were old-fashioned, like 1960s style hiking gear, khaki pants, buttoned shirt. Her skin was impossibly pale, her hair stringy and matted. And her eyes, they didn't reflect the light. They just looked like holes. She turned her head toward me, but I swear she had no face. Just skin where features should be, like someone had melted a mannequin. I wanted to run, but I couldn't move. Then she did something I'll never forget. She raised one finger to her lips and made a SHHHH motion. Then slowly turned back toward the tent and stepped inside. The light went out. The clearing was completely dark again. I stumbled backward and nearly screamed when I bumped into Alec, who'd come out of his tent without me noticing. He looked terrified. "You saw that too," he whispered. I nodded. We didn't sleep for the rest of the night. In the morning, the canvas tent was gone. I mean gone. Like, physically not there anymore. The clothesline, the chairs, the fire pit, all gone. No footprints. No drag marks. Just pine needles and undisturbed earth. Even the Polaroid camera was missing. We packed up and left that place without breakfast. None of us spoke the entire hike back to the ranger station. Weeks later, out of curiosity, or maybe obsession, I dug through some Forest Service archives. I found a case from 1982. 2 campers went missing in that same area. Their campsite was found exactly how we found it, untouched, abandoned, with food and belongings left behind. The rangers never found them. The weirdest part, in the photos from the scene, grainy black and white prints, there's a canvas tent, a clothesline, and a woman, barely visible in the trees. Same height, same outfit, same faceless blur. I've led 100 trips since then, but I've never gone back to that ridge. And I never will, because some places aren't abandoned. They are waiting. My older brother Jason and I were as different as brothers could be. He was the outdoorsman, rugged, spontaneous, could light a fire with wet wood and fish with dental floss if he had to. I was more of the bookworm, the quiet one who stayed home while he hiked national parks. But growing up, he always dragged me into his world, especially when it came to camping. The last time we went together was in the fall of 2015. I was 24, fresh out of college, working a dull office job I hated. Jason had just come back from Alaska and wanted to reconnect. I found this spot near the Smoky Mountains, he said over the phone. No trails, no tourists. Just you, me, and a weekend off the grid. I hesitated, but he was persistent, and part of me missed him. So I agreed. We drove up on a Friday morning and hiked into the woods for a few hours, away from everything. The place was gorgeous, autumn leaves like fire overhead, a small creek nearby, and the kind of silence that makes you feel small in the best possible way. Jason set up camp with practiced ease. I mostly just watched, awkward but grateful. The first night was perfect. Campfire stories, hot cocoa, and the kind of laughter you only share with someone who's known you your whole life. Jason talked about maybe starting a YouTube channel for survival stuff. I told him I'd help him edit the videos. We made plans. Big ones. Then came Saturday night. We were sitting by the fire around 10 p.m., just talking, when Jason suddenly stopped mid-sentence. He tilted his head, eyes focused into the dark beyond the trees. "You hear that?" he asked. I paused, then shook my head. "Hear what?" He didn't answer, just stood up slowly and grabbed the flashlight. Sounded like someone calling. I laughed nervously. "There's nobody out here, man. You said that yourself." Jason didn't laugh. He was serious now. "Alert. I'll be right back," he said. "Stay here." I watched his flashlight bob through the trees, then vanish. I waited. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. No sound. No voice. No flashlight. I called his name. No answer. Finally, I grabbed my own light and followed the direction he went. I kept calling, nothing. The forest had swallowed him. Then, just when panic was starting to take hold, I saw something. His flashlight, lying on the ground. Still on, pointing into the trees. No blood. No sign of a struggle. Just the light. Then, from deeper in the woods, I heard it. My name. But it wasn't Jason's voice. It sounded like him. But wrong. Too flat. No emotion. Like someone imitating him who'd only ever heard him speak once. "Brian," it said again, quieter this time. "Help me." Every instinct told me to run. But I couldn't leave without him. So I stepped forward. That's when I saw Jason. Or something wearing Jason. He stood there maybe 20 feet away, barely lit by moonlight filtering through the trees. Same build. Same flannel shirt. Same boots. But he wasn't moving. Just standing still, arms at his sides. His head was tilted just slightly, unnaturally, and his mouth hung open like it had forgotten how to close. And his eyes, they weren't Jason's. They were black, like 2 holes cut out of his face. I froze. He took 1 step forward. No sound, no crunch of leaves. Just gliding. I ran. I don't remember the sprint back to camp. I just remember collapsing inside the tent, zippering it shut, and holding the flashlight like a weapon. All night, I heard footsteps circling the tent. No voices. just walking, over and over. When dawn finally came, I unzipped the tent slowly. Jason was gone. The fire had burned out. His backpack was still there, but no sign of him. The flashlight I'd dropped in the woods, sitting neatly next to my sleeping bag. I hiked out that morning and called search and rescue. They looked for days. Nothing. No scent. No tracks. It was like he'd never been there at all. Weeks later, I got a package in the mail. No return address. Inside was a flash drive. It had one file, a video. Shaky footage from a body cam or maybe a phone. It showed Jason, walking through the woods at night, calling my name. Then turning around suddenly, gasping. And then the last frame, him staring into the camera, face slack, eyes wide, before going completely still. I don't know who sent it, or how they got it. I gave it to the authorities. They had no leads, no explanation. I still have dreams about that night. In the dreams, Jason comes back. But it's not him. It never is. Whatever I saw out there, it wasn't my brother. It looked like him, moved like him. But it wasn't him. And I think it's still looking for me. That was the last time I ever went camping.